Hello world, today we are interviewing Latia Glover, the daughter of Melle Mel, also known as the first princess of hip hop. She is a mother and author, and we are excited to have her here today. I want to thank everyone who joined our BDP giveaway and performed absolute skill on the cypher beat, and the two winners have been announced on our Instagram at official BDP1. Also, little disclaimer, I might sound a bit stuffed and you might hear a little cough or sniff in the background, but I promise I am not doing drugs. I am just a little congested. Starting this episode off with a favorite, BDP by Westside Gunn. I literally heard this song 2 days ago, and I think it came out about a year ago, and I thought it was dope. Some people thought it was a slight diss, I guess. I thought it was bars. Anyways, give it a listen. Shout out BDP. All right, let's get into our fourth episode. My name is Time Journey, and this is the House of Legacy. So introduce yourself to the people, where you from, what's your legacy, and yeah, let's start from there.
Well, my name is Latia Glover. Everybody knows me as Tia. My legacy, what is my legacy? Well, my legacy would be my children, right? And all of the beautiful things that I bring into this world and this universe. But I guess some would like to say my legacy would be the things that my father have accomplished, right? Yeah.
What was that like growing up for you, being Melle Mel's daughter? Did anyone know? Did you know? How was it for you?
Well, growing up, I didn't know I was Melle Mel's daughter, quote unquote. Yeah. But I definitely knew that I was somebody special, or rather my dad was special, because you know I always got a tremendous amount of love. Yes. When we would go out in the streets, everybody come up to me and hug me, and you know everybody was just just loving me, love bombing me down. Yeah. You know, when I was a child. Wow. But then I went through a situation when I was 5 years old, and both of my parents, they both kind of was on drugs. And you know, this was around the time in the 80s where drugs really took over the streets of New York. So at that time it was a weird situation, because I went from being this child that's getting all of this amount of love and gifts and all of these things, right? And then now I kind of got whisked away from my family, my entire family, and me and my little brother, we were put into a foster home. Really? Yeah, we were put into a foster home.
How long were you there for?
So in the foster home, I was there from the age of 7. No, I'm sorry. I was there from the age of 5 to 7. Okay. So it was when I was younger. So basically what was going on in that time frame, it was just the time frame that my grandmother needed to get me and my brother, or to get us out the system. Wow. So that was because basically we wound up staying with my grandma. And that,
from getting to your grandma, how was that life then, moving out of the foster care system? Now you're with your grandmother.
With my grandmother, okay, so it was kind of like, it was so my grandparents were very strict. Okay. They're from the South. Okay. And at this moment they came to New York to build a better life. This is my mother's parents. They came to New York to build a better life for their family, and now they're here in New York and they have children on drugs. So they don't even know what to do. They don't even know what's happening. Right. You know, their daughter, my mom, she graduated college. I think my mother might have been the first one to graduate college. She had a really great job. And around that time in the 80s, apparently from talking to all of the OGs and, you know, my parents and stuff like that, cocaine was a thing that people did if you were popular. It's like you did cocaine. So when people were like in the clubs and they were like doing the cocaine, then the freebase came in. And freebase is supposed to be like the first crack. What crack was called before was called crack. And it was like, it kind of just hit everybody with a force, and nobody realized how much it was gonna affect us as a people. Right. So now my grandparents, they didn't know what was going on. They just, you know, at that time, you just see crack rocks on the floor. Jesus. You just see crackheads running around the street. People that you knew that looked good, had good businesses, had money, had a solid family. They just now, so basically they were sheltering me. I literally couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything. I went to school. And I came home. I couldn't have company. I couldn't spend the night in nobody's house.
Wow. Wow.
They definitely, and I was a little bit angered about this growing up, because, you know, when my friends, I'll look out the window and all my friends
of course play, you want to go out to be part of it. Yeah. Wow.
Yes. They'd be like, Tia, come outside, come outside. And I'll be the one in the window like, no, sorry guys, I can't come outside. And they were like, okay. And you know, after a while, they just stopped asking because they knew I couldn't come outside.
And that was more because of the fear maybe your grandparents had, like they wanted to protect you from the drugs, or was it more because you're Melle Mel's daughter?
No, it was more for the drugs.
Right.
It was more about the drugs, because you got to remember, even back then, so my dad, he did this amazing thing, right, with him and his peers that he grew up with, and but then hip hop was not still recognized in the way that it's being recognized now. So it still wasn't like, okay, it was like he did what he did, but he wasn't even getting the real recognition that he was supposed to get then. So he might have not. It's kind of like, I don't think my grandparents were looking at it in that way. It was kind of more like when Ray Charles was coming up with his sound, and people were kind of like, what is this? It was like one of those things.
It was still new. It was still, got it. Yeah.
So it didn't have any real notoriety or no real, you know? Yeah. So, so it was more or less, they didn't want me to be a crackhead.
That's dope. Smart, of course.
Right.
Of course.
Right.
Wow.
And so even like in school, it's so funny because I remember one time, just for no reason, just saying, oh, well, you know, people were talking about hip hop and talking about music, and I used to get teased a lot when I was a kid.
Okay.
So I was, I brought up, I said, oh yeah, you know, my father's a rapper. Now, I'm not sure if I told them that my dad is Grandmaster Melle Mel, or if I just simply said he's a rapper. But when I said that, I had about 3 people laughing at me, and it was like, ha 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 ha, what do you mean, stop lying, your father's not a rapper. If your father was a rapper, why are you going to this school?
Right, okay, there it is, there it is, right.
So after that, right, I was embarrassed, and I never brought it up again.
Really?
I never brought it up again.
Because they expected if you were a rapper's daughter, then you should be in a what, better school?
In a better school, living in a better neighborhood, right? You know, the neighborhood that we lived in became bad. It actually used to be a good neighborhood. It became bad because of the crack era, actually, right? Because you know, the Grand Concourse, when my dad got his first deal, one of the first things that the record company, they gave him a Cadillac. He got an apartment on the Grand Concourse, because if you was in the Bronx, if you lived in the Bronx and you was about something, you had a nice little apartment on the Concourse, on the Grand Concourse. So you know, at the time, that time it was good, but when I was in school, it kind of wasn't. So in the years between 7 and 12, I actually, that was when my grandparents shielded me from the streets. And so I didn't really spend a lot of time with my family, with my parents. So now one of the best things about the situation, I never seen either one of my parents use a drug.
Beautiful.
I never. So I was sheltered well. I was sheltered well. I never seen either one of them use drugs. I did see my mom as an addict. Unfortunately, I did have to see that because the area that she was doing her stuff at was the neighborhood that I grew up in with my grandparents. So that was a little So that was a little bit rough because they didn't want me to engage with my mom. Like even to the point that like she would come over and I would like have to talk to her through the door and just be like, sorry mom, I can't open up the door. And at that time my dad because of the situations that was happening, I didn't actually see my dad from the age of 7 to 12. I didn't really, so it was weird. So now I'm this 7-year-old girl, right?
Yeah.
And I was 5 having this whole lifestyle that I'm being introduced to, right? But this is a normalized lifestyle for me. So I remember when I went into foster care, I had a situation with one of my teachers, and the teacher gave me a letter. And when I came home, I'm reading the letter. I can't really read well, but I'm reading the letter, praising myself, like, oh, Latia is so smart, and Latia, it's just such a blessing to have her in the class, and da, da, da. So I'm saying all of this, right, because this is what I'm used to. I'm used to getting praised. And when I brought the letter home to my foster mom, it was saying the opposite of what I was trying to make it say. It was saying she's talking too much in class and something of that. Where the foster mother got upset with me, gave me a, you know, put me on punishment or both, right? I'm not really a part of the family that I had prior to my parents leaving. I used to be around my aunts, my cousins and stuff like that. But my grandparents, they were so scared of what they were seeing in front of them in the neighborhood and what happened to their children that they kind of didn't want me to go around any family. You know, my family is very religious. My my mother's side of the family is very, very religious. So even when my dad was 18 and my mom was 20 when they had me, and my uncle, he's the pastor, God bless him, he married about maybe 10 or 15 people in our family, and my mom and my dad, he married my mom and my dad as well. Wow. Yeah, when my dad was 18 and 20. So yeah, so it was like, you know, I kind of always felt like I was missing something because it was just like this life that I was kind of supposed to have, and it's like now I'm just this singular child sitting in the house basically by myself. So I have 5 siblings. I have 5 siblings, so it's 6 of us, right? And but I was raised as the only child. Okay, right.
So I was going to ask, you said it was you and your brother?
Yes.
So when you went to your grandparents, was your brother there with you?
My brother, he did not come. They kept him in foster care.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it took a while for him to come back out.
Got it.
Yeah, but it was just me by myself. So at home, I was just this loner. I used to play Monopoly by myself.
Okay.
And I would win against myself. I would cheat against myself.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And I used to read a lot. I used to read a lot. One of my first books one of my first novels that I ever read, I was 9 years old, and I probably shouldn't have been reading it, but my uncle Billy, he had it in his collection. It was Black Girl Lost by Donald Goins. And I opened up the book about 11 o'clock at night. And I finished reading it about 4 o'clock in the morning.
What?
And I loved it so much. And I remember going back to school. I'm like in the 4th, 5th grade or something like that. I'm going back to school, and I'm telling my classmates, I'm like, yeah, look at this. They said shit in the book. Because, you know, we're not supposed to be cursing with this book. I'm reading this book with all these curse words. So I'm so excited to show my friends all the curse words. Yeah, but that was one of my pastimes. I'm reading a lot.
Why did you like the book so much when you did? Like, what was so interesting about it?
Well, I think what I liked about the book was that it was, so even though my family was, even though my parents were on drugs, I don't know nothing about the drug life. I don't know nothing about the streets. I don't know nothing about, like, I know nothing about that. Right?
Yeah.
So it was actually like me reading about a world that I know nothing about, because I was that secluded in my life growing up with my grandparents. So it was kind of like interesting to see this young girl going through all of these things, and how she kind of let, because that's what the book is about, how she kind of let her situation succumb her life.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So
that's deep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
I was gonna ask you, so with your parents and then you in your teen years, how did that shape your like image of love and relationships?
My image of love and relationships.
Yeah, like, because everyone, of course, people say, especially for like young girls, that seeing how your parents are in a relationship or how they are in different relationships can definitely shape the way we are in relationships. And I've definitely had my fair share of lessons. So yeah, what has that been like for you?
So, this is a really interesting question, because I actually asked myself this.
Yeah.
So now my mother is she's a woman's man. She's a man's woman. Okay. So basically every man my mother ever dated married her.
Okay, let's just put that got it. Oh, man's woman. Okay, got it.
Every man that she's dated, she married them. So I think her last was her fourth husband. Okay. My dad was her first.
Okay. Got it.
So my mother, she definitely caters to her man. She's, so I know that's something that I definitely do have in me. But then also I was raised with my grandparents,
right,
who was till death did they part,
right,
which is what happened.
Yeah.
And so I got that, and and in my family, you got married. Like, you couldn't come around the family talking about, oh, this is my man, this is my no. When y'all getting married, I probably am the only female in my family that's not married. In my entire family, I'm probably the only one.
By choice?
By choice, yes. I've been proposed to a few times. I just kind of, I think I'm scared of commitment.
Okay.
I'm trying to get past that now.
Okay.
But yeah.
What makes you scared of commitment in that field?
I think being let down, maybe. I think maybe not wanting to put myself in a situation, and like it's supposed to be long term, and then I start seeing there's things that I don't want to deal with, or just people not standing up to the expectations,
right?
So I think that, because it's weird, because I had a child at 16.
Wow.
Right. So and actually I would have had a child at 15, but I had a miscarriage with my twins. So now my son's father, he proposed to me. He absolutely proposed to me. Because my mother was definitely in his ear, like, you better make my daughter an honest woman and blase.
Okay.
And I told him no. And he was so sad about this. And it was so weird, because I absolutely knew I wanted to be a mother, but I knew I didn't want to be a wife.
At 16?
At 16 years old, I absolutely knew that. Wow. And I loved him to death.
Right.
Like, I love my son's father to death. He is actually the person who taught me about life. Like, he opened up my eyes to the world.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because I was so sheltered.
Right, like you said before, and growing up and everything. So now coming into this new relationship, and you know what you want at that age, like that's very dope.
Yeah. So that was
How was that experience now? So you're a teen mom, and like, what's that life like for you? How did that change you?
Oh my gosh! So my son was one of the best things that happened to me. I wouldn't change it for anybody. So because I was so sheltered, because I didn't have a wide experience of being around people and things, when I had my son, that's when I started living life. So a lot of people say, oh, I got pregnant, I had a child, my friends didn't want to be around me, or I couldn't go out anymore. So it was the opposite for me. The first house party I went to was how I found out I was pregnant.
What?
I went to a house party with my cousin. I woke up the next morning with a hangover. I said, I gotta be pregnant. And then I was pregnant. That's how I found out. And then after that, it's just my life. So my son actually gave me life. He gave me life. And I remember being pregnant with my son and reading the Bible, trying to force myself to read the Bible, because I was like, all right, I need to get all the information I could get in. And saying to myself, God, I don't know how I'm gonna raise this child. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
but I know I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do a good job. And I remember saying this to myself when I was pregnant with him, and I would just write him little notes and stuff like that. So yeah, it actually, it was actually a good experience, you know. Me and his dad, we were really close. Okay. You know, we were like, you know, and we supported each other a lot. So in that way, yeah. My mother was very supportive. My dad, of course, he's a man. He's not. Okay. He was not. One of the things that my dad is really a hard up person, right? So when he would have conversations with me about men, this is how the conversation would go. Tia, these men out here, they ain't shit. And you want to know how I know they ain't shit? Because I ain't shit. Wow. So leave these boys alone. They ain't got nothing for you. He said, you know, you want to know what the best thing a man could do? Is walk the fuck away and not give a fuck. And I will never forget him telling me that. Wow. So it's kind of like going forward. And maybe even too, when you said as far as when I was talking about not wanting to get married, that might have played a role in that as well. Right.
With that, because of that conversation you had with him, that might have stuck with you, and it's like, no, I'm not gonna.
It might have. Because that was like this is a weird story, and I don't know. And I'm gonna say it because I
please, need to. Please.
So because I didn't see like I said, I seen my mother. She was floating around the neighborhood here and there. Yeah. But my dad, I actually didn't see him from the age of 7 to 12 years old. Okay. Now, this is the thing. I didn't even know my dad was on drugs. I didn't know. Okay. Okay. Because my mother, she was clear. It was you could clearly see it. Right. But yeah, and then he wasn't around me, so I didn't know. So anyway, I had this fantasy. Right, since I didn't see him, that I'm seeing this light-skinned rapper on TV, and he's trending and he's popular, and I'm looking at him and he looks similar to my father. So I'm thinking this man that I'm watching on the TV now that's got all of this stuff going on is my dad, and that person is Ice-T.
What?
So from the age of 7 to 12, I thought
Ice-T was your dad?
I thought Ice-T was my dad, okay?
That is so funny.
And I thought, with my immature, naive mind, I'm not understanding Brandon or this or that. Right, so I'm thinking that he, I don't know. And this is a fantasy in my head as well, too. Because remember, nobody's not talking about, older people, the grandparents, they didn't talk about what's happening. They didn't tell me like, oh, this is going on and that's going on. It was just like, hey, you here? Get these good grades, listen to us.
Still keeping it.
And we're going to feed you.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? We're going to feed you and put a shelter over your head. Wow. So, so I assumed that he changed his image and changed his name, and he's now Ice-T. As I got older, I always wanted to tell Ice-T this. I knew I was gonna meet him when I got older, and I was in the hospital one day with one of my friends who was sick, and Ice-T came to visit him. So he's there, and my uncle Mickey is there, Mickey Benson, and this was my moment. So I said, "Oh, Ice-T," I said, when I was younger, because I didn't see my dad for a while, I thought you were my dad. And then it was so funny when I said this. This was something that I was so desperately wanting to say. Like I was excited about saying it. My close friend who I was visiting in the hospital, he knows the story. I said it to him many, many times, right? But even he was shocked when I said it out loud to everybody, because everybody in the room kind of looked around like, wait, what? Huh? And then Ice, because Ice is a very positive person, right? Wow. He said, well, you do look like my daughter, though.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah. That must have been crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so where were you after having a son and going through your teen experience in life? Where were you in your 20s, career-wise, mindset-wise? Who were you?
Well, so now there was a few things that happened.
Yes.
When my mom definitely got off of drugs, and she got me and my brother back. But then there were still situations, because then now you have a child where my mom doesn't necessarily know me, and I don't necessarily know her. Yeah. Right? And even with my dad as well. So it wound up being a lot of clashing. Okay. So I wound up actually going back into foster care. at the age of 14.
Okay.
So I was back in foster care. So from now 14 to 17, I'm in foster care. So now it was like a crazy situation because I was tired of going through all of that situation. Yeah. Right. I talk about it a lot in my book. You know, to break it down why that even happened. Yes. But basically, I got to a point where I knew that I had to take care of me and my son. Right? Yeah. And I was not going to depend on anybody. So my absolute goal was to be a doctor. I always wanted to be an obstetrician. I love that. Like Bill Cosby. Wow. Right? Okay. Right. That was the goal. Wow. But having my son, now I have to make money. I have to make sure that we have, you know, we have a roof, we have food. So at 18, you know, I got a job. I was working in a bar. Okay. I had my own apartment, 2-bedroom apartment in a nice neighborhood, a backyard. I had my car, and my son is 2 years old, and I thought I was doing a good job. But you know, when you have to balance making money versus going to school, that's a hard balance. Wow. You know what I mean? So I picked making money, even though going to school would have helped me get into money, but I picked me making the money at the club. Right. So it's kind of like that wound up being my life for a while. At the club? Working in the club, yes. Okay. That wanted to be in my life for a while. Yeah. Maybe about a few years, I'm gonna say 2 or 3 years. Okay. But that's how I was able to put food on the table. Of course. You know what I mean? Right. And I kind of felt like if I did other things, like if I got like a regular 9 to 5, it was no way that I was gonna be able to live the lifestyle that I wanted or needed to live. Yeah. You know, yeah. So I did go back to school within that time because I'm a nerd. I'm an absolute nerd. Nerd me, please. Yes, yes. I did go back to school, and I got my medical assistant certification. Yes. I did that for a while. Okay. But I was traveling a lot, and I loved it. I'm a Sagittarius, you know, Sag Nation. Yes, yes. I was traveling a lot, and it was hard for me to stay at a job, a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So I kind of just stayed in the club for a little bit more longer. Right. So you being a nurse, that is a beautiful thing. Yes. You are a lifesaver, literally. Yeah. And COVID, the pandemic, where were you in that? What was your experience like as a nurse in that situation? It was, so I definitely felt it was my duty to run into the field and to help out. Okay. I definitely, because at the time when COVID hit, I actually was just in school. I wasn't working. I was only in school. Okay. To get my RN. And what's an RN? Registered nurse. Okay, registered nurse. Just for those who don't know. Okay. Yeah. And so it was. So I could say it was trying, but it really it was, but it wasn't. So now, let me just say, when you go into survival mode, you don't see the struggle. You're just surviving. So you don't realize the struggle until after you give up the survival mode. Wow. So all of that time, I was just going. I didn't think about stuff. I didn't talk about stuff. Like I never told anyone around me that I was watching death. Like people would die at my job. I wouldn't come home and be like, "Oh, 3 people died today." I wouldn't even speak on it, and it kind of just left me a little bit numb. And desensitized from what was going on, but that wasn't really a bad thing because it helped me to help the people better with me not being so engulfed with fear, I guess. Okay, wow. So it made, it not made you, but in a sense, did it make you fearless to just step in and I felt like I was needed. I felt like I definitely was needed. And I was gonna do that because you know that's basically, I'm a nurturer. Yes. And ever since I've been a kid, you know, whether it was me being a doctor or the medical assistant, I always knew that me taking care of people and making people better is a passion for me. It's something that makes me happy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's amazing. Yeah. Your book, you were talking about a little bit of it in the podcast, and I want to know
what's that experience like writing it? I guess we could start there, and then when do you see it coming out?
Yes, my book has been very therapeutic for me. Yeah. So basically, the name of my book is called Black Girl Lost.
Dope.
Right?
Yeah.
The message. And the reason why I named it that, I don't know, like earlier we were talking about Donald Goins and the Black Girl Lost. So that was one of the inspirations, right?
Yeah.
Because that was one of the first books that I read. And then I think Nas, he has the song Black Girl Lost, and that was one of my first favorite hip hop songs to listen to.
Yeah.
So as I got older, I realized that I actually was that black girl that was lost, right? Wow. And then the message is definitely, because at the end of each chapter, I have a message that could resonate to the youth, or to my peers that have been through the same thing. Because I know a lot of us have been, like, my story is not, you know, isolated. It's not just me going through this. A lot of people went through this, you know, and I want people to know that you can go through this, you could go through a struggle and you can still come out of it. You can still see greatness. You can, you know, within yourself. Yeah. You know. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to be published early next year. Okay, great. Early next year. Okay. Yeah. So I'm just, you know, I'm excited. I'm very excited, and you know, once the book comes out, I'm excited for it to be on the big screen.
Of course, yeah. I'm going to see it on the billboards. I'm going to see it available now in Barnes & Noble. Yeah. All that. Yes. Okay, so ending off this episode with my 3 favorite questions. First one, how do you plan on continuing your legacy? Or how have you already continued it?
So how I plan on continuing my legacy is I am glue. I'm like glue. Yeah. Right? So I'm a person, like, if I see something that's not right or that's broken, I'm gonna try to fix it, right? And I also am great at bringing people together. So in that sense, I'm gonna say my legacy will always be my family and what I can instill in them. You know, and then all the people who come around me who wind up being family, because you know, friends, like I heard somebody say, they don't have friends, because if you're a friend and you're close enough, you're actually family. Yeah. Anyway, right. So that definitely is my legacy, and basically just to just be a positive role model to people. Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful. Where do you see yourself in 1 year?
In 1 year? Yeah. I definitely, of course, my book will definitely be finished. Yes. I see me doing a lot of interviews. Yeah.
Tell your story.
I see a lot of great things. Okay. A lot of great things. I don't think I could speak on all of them right now, but a lot of great things. A lot of good things.
That's good. Yeah. And last one, what advice can you give to the next celebrity kid possibly listening?
Ooh, advice. Yeah. Well, the advice that I can give is, God bless the child that has its own. And I've always loved that song. That song, like, it just sings to my heart. And I would just say, always try to have your own identity. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of rough when you meet people and it's like, oh, this is Melle Mel's daughter. And it's like, no, I'm Tia. My name is Tia. Right. You know what I mean?
I have a name too.
Yes. Right? Yeah. And but also, you know, use your resources. Use your resources to, you know, and
to get to where you gotta go.
To get to where you have to go. Yeah. Because it's always God bless the child that has its own.
So where can people reach you at or support you?
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram at Candy Rain, aka that's regular Candy, regular Rain, aka Candy Rain, aka on Instagram.
Thank you everyone for listening. Make sure to like, subscribe, and support your local small-owned business.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.